Hi, Doug Burr from Doug Burr's Tackle World here on the Gold Coast, doing the fishing report for this weekend, the 22nd and 23rd of May 2021. Okay, it's going to be windy, but you can still fish the broadwater. Lots of things to do. Fish the jumping pin area, plenty of prawns up the river. We'll start at that in town actually. So, yeah, the last few days the prawns are back on. Last weekend they were good on Saturday and gone Sunday. Last few days they are really on at Rudy Mars. Around the low tide, and up the Logan River's been pretty good as well. And he's got to try and find where the boats are and fish the cast the net at that time. Best times obviously low tide and high tide when the current slows down, and that's when you'll smack them. Talking to guys that we're getting like 3 kilo casts average. It's an amazing amount of prawns. So remember your bag limit's 10 litres per person, or just under 10 litres, and that's boat limit per person is 2 maximum. So if you're on your own, it's 10 litres, and if you're with 10 other people, it's 20 litres. Okay, so that's the rule as far as I know, and that includes an intact hull, not heads off or anything like that. And yeah, so all good. So that's the prawns. The jumping area this week has been pretty good for flatties. There's been a few good ones around actually. Normal areas around the banks around Tippers Channel to the bedroom, Pandanus Island, around Tank Bank's been really good on the north side of Crusoe, which would be a good spot to fish this week with the southerlies blowing. So it's on the northern side of Crusoe Island, and you got really good tides early morning. So you nip out there early. You got high tide, I think around 5 or 6 in the morning on Sunday, and you fish that first 2 hours to run out before it gets too low, and the fish should be right up against the edge. Then they'll drop up against the sand and the edge there, and they'll drop into the deeper water as the tide drops down. Cleaning the bank would be the same scenario as well. And then once the tide starts getting a little bit out, I'd probably head over to Pandanus and try in the lagoons around the sandbanks there, or around the bedroom channel. Give that a shot. Whiting, there've been a few whiting right on the last basin at the northern end of South Stradbroke Island. Like yabbies or worms there. You can fish from the beach, just pull your boat up on the beach and fish from the beach, or you can just anchor up in your boat and catch them there as well. You're just on the edge of the current line, so out of the current a bit. There's been a few on Gold Bank as well, again on the run out tide where the 6 knot zone is on the edge of the banks there. Down the Broadwater way, there's been a few whiting around the back of Wade Break still, and on the banks north of Wade Break and south of Wade Break all the way through to the Sundial Bridge. Nighttime is really good, daytime's not too bad on the edge of the channel. You want worms and yabbies again. The Seaway, yeah, it's been fishing not too bad. There's been a few dewies and a couple of still the odd mango jack. And you might have saw last week we posted young Estuary that works here on a Saturday nailed a really big finger mark in the Seaway on live bait. It was 70 centimetres, which is like, if you're up North Queensland, it's not a bad size, but to get it down here is nearly unheard of. Well done, Stuart. Lucky fish. Unlucky fish and lucky Stuart, I would say. But anyhow, well done. And it's been it was a big happening this week. It's been squid. The squid are in. So if you remember last year, we did lots of things on the squid. The arrow squid. There's a few calamari as well, but they've been really good up in Moreton Bay at the moment, sort of around Dunwich and Peel Island and the banks, heading out over to the southern end of Moreton. But now there's a few arrow squid in the Broadwater, and they are in the main channels. You've got to just try different spots if that's any help to you. Fish the high tide, fish the first hour or two of the run out, and I would definitely say any channel that leads north from the Seaway, whether it be heading up around the back of Crab Island or Renai Bay or even Effron Island, and then maybe around the Grand Hotel as well, and Wade Break. So just drift the channels. You want to use sort of 2 types of squid jigs. So one I'm casting up into the current and I hit the bottom, and then I'm hopping it back down towards me. So one's like line up and boom, 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 lift it up, drop it back down. And quite often you go to lift it and it's on there. They've just grabbed it on the fall. Sometimes you'll feel a bit of a pull on it and you think, okay, I've hooked something on the bottom, but all of a sudden it starts pulling like that, and obviously it's a squid. Don't wind too fast, just gentle. A lot of the time they've just got those big long candle legs out, and I just grab the edge of the jig. And if you wind too fast, you can snap them off because the weight, they're full of water inside of them, so the weight will actually snap the tentacle. So just take it gentle. Most of those you can just lift in the boat. You don't need to net them unless it's a big one. Normally the little tiny ones I let them go, and the sort of the bit bigger size I'll keep because they're delicious to eat, of course. So plenty of squid around. The lure that I'm casting is generally a 2.5, okay, like that sort of size. We talked about these flash boosts last week from Shimano. They're really good. This is Major Craft. They're a Japanese company. While I'm doing that, while I'm working the rod, I'm actually dropping out another 1 or 2 rods. There's a couple of us in the boat, and those ones I just cast a bit further than the distance at the bottom. So if I'm in 4 metres of water, I'm casting about 5 metres because you have an incline behind the boat when you're drifting along. But I'm using a bigger jig, and I'm just sitting those in the rod holder. I'm running them down fairly low to the water, so flat type rod holders. And I'm using about a 3.5 or a 3, so like this sort of size is a dory, the Japanese spike and really good jig. Or this type here, in that sort of size. So you can see the comparative difference in the sizing there, guys. If you can see that. One's a 3.5 and one's a 2.5, so the measurement is quite a fair bit different. The bigger ones when you're drifting, just sitting in the rod holder, and the little one you're working, okay? But give them a shot. Heaps of squid around, great fun for the kids, great to eat, and definitely worth a shot as well. Crab wise, I put my sand crab pots out this week. Didn't lose any, no one stole any, no one even checked them, so I was very happy about that, thank you. Should have to say thank you. But anyhow, but there was no crabs. I got a couple of sandies. It was pretty quiet. So a lot of little ones and a few females. So I'm guessing the big ones are somewhere. I don't know where they are. I haven't found them yet. They could be up the river, in the Narang River. They could be up the Coombe River. They could be up around the Jumping Pin area. So he's got to try and find where they are. But they're definitely not where I normally go, which is sort of from Sovereign down to the Grand Hotel in that area on the back western channel of the Broadwater. So mud crabs might be the go this weekend. You've got big tides, you can put them right at the creeks, the full moon coming up. But definitely it's been a bit quiet on the crabbing scene. Okay, so beach wise, we've got 25 knots of wind. Yeah, you could fish up the pump and jetty for tailor just on dark. Or you could try for whiting around any of the little close shore gutters. You'd want to go fairly early morning before that wind gets up though. But whiting don't really care. You can chuck a 5 or 6 ball sinker on and throw it up into the wind up current and let it come down with the sweep. You don't need to cast far as well, so just need worms and yabbies. Plenty of worms on the beach at the moment, so catch your own worms, or we sell them, or most people sell the preserved beach worms or live worms. They both work as good as each other. So give that a shot. There's a few giant herring around the Broadwater at the moment and a few tarpon just drifting the main channels. There's a fair bit of bait around, so when you find the bait, you'll find those fish that are working the fish. There's a few trevally as well, and a few tailor. You just got to find where the bait is, okay? Garfish. Now garfish are really on at the moment. The tides are perfect next week, so you've got that high tide early morning, run out tide. If you're land based, I'd be trying near along the foreshore from Paradise Point up to sort of Labrador area. Along the foreshore there, look for some weed beds, fish floats, and fish small number 10 long shank hook. And you want peeled prawns, so just the green prawns you buy in the packet. Chop them up about the size of a rice bubble. It goes right on the end part of the hook. Throw over the shank. They don't care about other fish, like other fish do, about seeing the shank. You just got to cover up that little curl piece on the bottom of the hook. And fish it around about sort of probably a metre below your float, okay, with a stop beat. So plenty of garfish around, and great fun to catch, great for the kids. They're aerobatics, they jump around like the joint, and they're really nice to eat as well. So yeah, give that a go. That's probably about it for the Broadwater and jumping. So good luck out there this weekend. Unfortunately, the weather's not so good. Midweek looks really good around sort of Wednesday, Thursday if you want to go for a fish. Okay, that's Doug Bear from Doug Bear's Tackle World. Catch you next week. Thank you. Bye bye.